Hey everyone, and welcome to another deep dive. Today we'll be taking a look at the Global Fashion Collective.
GFC.
That's right, the GFC, and they're all about giving a platform to designers, both new and established.
A really fascinating mix here.
Exactly. And they're going global too, with shows in some major cities like New York and London, and even Milan and Tokyo.
hmm They've really managed to bridge the gap between those just starting out and, those who've already kind of made it. You know what I mean?
I do. And speaking of global reach, GFC is going to be at Milan Fashion Week on February 28th.
Oh, wow. That's coming up.
Yeah, they've got a show at Chiostri di San Barnaba featuring 4 designers personally selected by Jamal Abdourahman, who you might know as the founder of Vancouver Fashion Week.
And curator of the GFC.
Yes, he wears many hats, and we're really lucky to have an exclusive interview with him conducted by Simona Cochi.
Oh, fantastic. So we're getting all the insider info?
All the good stuff, all the insights. So let's start from the beginning. Jamal's story is interesting, to say the least. He was born in Djibouti, moved to Canada, and initially planned to work for the UN.
Not exactly the typical path to the fashion world.
Not at all. But looking back, it's easy to see how these experiences influenced his vision.
Right. His sister sparked his early interest in fashion. His time as a nightclub promoter really honed his entrepreneurial skills, and his love for music kind of infused his work with a really unique energy.
It's like all these threads came together to create this vibrant tapestry that led him to the world of fashion.
It's true, but I always wondered what made him choose Vancouver as the starting point for his fashion dreams.
Well, Vancouver back then was a mix of different cultures, but not exactly a fashion hub.
It was a pretty expensive city, too.
And it lacked the industry support and infrastructure that cities like Paris or New York had.
So starting a fashion week, there must have been a huge risk.
But according to the interview, it was a real struggle, financially speaking. He had to build all of his connections from nothing and basically convince the world that Vancouver could be a fashion capital.
It sounds like a challenge.
And yet he succeeded. He pulled it off and turned Vancouver Fashion Week into the second largest in North America.
Wow, that's incredible. So what was his secret?
I think it was his innovative approach. He was thinking outside the box from day one.
You know those trunk shows and pop-up shops we talked about earlier?
Yeah.
He was already using those back then. He was connecting designers directly with buyers and getting people talking in really unconventional ways.
He was ahead of the curve, for sure.
Yeah.
But how did he go from the success of Vancouver Fashion Week to this global platform that is GFC?
I think he always had this global vision. Vancouver Fashion Week was already attracting international designers, and he saw the potential to create something even bigger, something that could truly connect people through fashion from all over the world.
And that's where GFC comes in. It's like everything he learned from Vancouver Fashion Week, but on a global scale.
Exactly. And what really makes GFC stand out is their focus on inclusivity. They don't just want big names. They're looking for emerging designers, photographers, students, anyone who has a passion for fashion and wants to make their mark.
I love that. It's about giving everyone a chance to shine.
And don't forget, all of this is leading up to that big show at Milan Fashion Week. Jamal's chosen 4 designers, Maya Sayer, Perry Jones, MI, and a designer from Zurich to showcase their collections on February 28th at Chiostri di San Barnaba.
Such a diverse group.
I know, and they each bring their own unique style to the table. It really shows the diversity and innovation that GFC is all about.
Now, I know we touched on this before, but juggling all these fashion capitals, each with their own unique culture and market, it sounds like a logistical and creative nightmare.
It does.
How does Jamal even manage all of that, make sure each show resonates with the local audience?
Well, Simona asked him that very question, and he emphasized the importance of cultural sensitivity and really adapting to each city. He's constantly learning and tweaking his approach to fit the context.
It's not a one-size-fits-all approach.
Not at all. He makes it feel authentic and relevant while still staying true to the core values of GFC inclusivity innovation, that global perspective.
It's amazing what he's accomplished. He's not just putting on a show. He's creating a dialogue between cultures and styles. It's really impressive.
Absolutely. It's about connecting people through fashion and showcasing the amazing talent that's out there.
All against the backdrop of some of the most influential fashion weeks in the world. He's really making a statement and pushing the boundaries of the industry.
And he seems to be thriving on the challenge. He's really passionate about what he does.
It's inspiring to see someone with such a clear vision who started from scratch, built a successful fashion week in a city that wasn't really known for fashion, and then took that vision global with GFC.
And it's all about inclusivity, innovation, and building a community around fashion.
Absolutely. So where do we go from here?
Let's not forget about that GFC show happening in Milan at the end of the month.
February 28th at Chiostri di San Barnaba, right?
That's the one with those 4 designers, Maya Sayer, Perry Jones, MI.
And that Zurich-based designer we keep mentioning.
Yeah, I'm really curious about their work.
Me too. And it's really interesting how each designer represents a different aspect of GFC's mission.
Oh, yeah. How so?
Well, you've got Maya Sayer with her really unique Georgian aesthetic.
Right.
And then Perry Jones brings those, like, red carpet-worthy designs.
Yeah, those are stunning.
And MI is all about, like, pushing the boundaries of fashion,
And then that mysterious Zurich designer.
Exactly.
They're making a big splash, and I think it really shows Jamal's eye for talent and wanting to showcase new voices.
It's not just a random assortment of designers. It's carefully curated to tell a story.
Absolutely. And speaking of stories, Simona really dives into Jamal's personal journey in the interview.
I was going to say we have to get back to that. Such a fascinating story.
One thing that really struck me was his resilience. Starting a fashion week in Vancouver with no connections, limited funds in one of the most expensive cities in the world.
It's mind-blowing.
It takes serious dedication.
Did he talk about any specific obstacles he had to overcome?
He mentioned one show in particular that took 2 months of planning and almost wiped out his savings.
Ouch.
But he didn't give up. He just jumped right into planning the next one.
Wow, that's some serious dedication.
It really is. It's what sets him apart.
But is that level of intensity sustainable long-term? The fashion industry is so demanding.
That's a great question, and actually Simona asks him that in the interview.
Oh, perfect.
He acknowledges the challenges, but emphasizes that passion and purpose are essential. He really believes in what he's doing, and that seems to fuel him.
You can really feel that passion. It's contagious, and it goes beyond just creating a platform for designers.
Right. It's more like starting a movement.
A new way of looking at fashion.
Yeah.
One that's more inclusive, more globally connected, and really focused on supporting talent and creativity.
Exactly. And that's where the Nancy Mark Award comes in.
Oh, right. I read about that.
It's named after someone who really believed in Jamal's vision from the beginning, and it helps support a promising Vancouver designer every year.
That's so great. A real tribute to her legacy.
And it shows how much Jamal values giving back to the community.
It's those little details that really tell you about a person you know.
For sure, he's not just chasing success, he wants to help others succeed, too.
And that's reflected in GFC's commitment to sustainability, too.
Oh, absolutely. It's a huge part of their mission.
It's not just about being trendy. It's essential for the future of the fashion industry.
Right, and they're not just talking about it. They're working with designers who are committed to those conscious practices, using eco-friendly materials, the whole 9 yards.
It's great to see them leading by example.
And they're also really big on diversity and inclusivity. Just look at the designers chosen for the Milan show. Each one brings something different to the table.
Like a little snapshot of the global fashion scene.
And it all comes back to that core mission of building a global fashion community.
I love that. And the best part is that you can actually experience this community firsthand.
Online.
Yes.
Yeah.
GFC is all about embracing digital innovation, and they'll be live streaming the Milan show on their website.
So anyone can tune in.
From anywhere in the world. It's amazing.
It really is. You can feel that energy and creativity from thousands of miles away.
So cool. So what do you think is the one thing we want our listeners to take away from this deep dive into the world of GFC?
I think the biggest takeaway is that fashion is so much more than just clothes.
Couldn't agree more.
It's about self-expression, culture, values, and it can be a real force for positive change in the world.
Absolutely. It's not just about looking good. It's about doing good and making a statement about who you are and what you believe in.
Exactly. And GFC is showing us that fashion can be a bridge between cultures, a platform for emerging talent, and a catalyst for positive change.
I'm so on board with that.
Yeah.
So we've talked about Jamal's amazing journey, GFC's mission and values, and the upcoming show in Milan. But there's one thing we haven't touched on yet.
What's that?
The business side of it all. Running a global platform like this takes a lot of resources, partnerships, and a deep understanding of the market.
You're right, and that's where things get really interesting. Jamal's been very open about the difficulties of getting sponsorships, especially in Canada.
Yeah, especially compared to industries like film or music.
Exactly. They get way more funding and support. It's like trying to make a movie without a studio.
You have the vision and the talent, but no resources.
It's a common struggle for designers trying to make it in Canada.
It makes you think about how we value fashion as a society.
It's often seen as frivolous, but it's a huge industry that employs so many people.
Absolutely. It's about creativity, innovation, craftsmanship, cultural expression, so much more than just pretty clothes.
Right. It's time we recognize the impact it has, both economically and socially.
I think Jamal's work with GFC is a perfect example of that.
It really is. He's showcasing the talent, the passion, the potential of the industry.
And he's doing it on a global scale, which brings us back to that other big trend shaping the future of fashion digital communication. Okay, so we're back and ready to really dig into the future of fashion.
That's a big topic, right?
It is, it is. And one thing that Jamal talked about was the lack of government support for fashion in Canada,
Yeah, he compared it to industries like film and music.
which get a lot more funding.
Way more. It's like they have a studio backing them up, and fashion designers are out there trying to make a blockbuster with no help.
That's a really good analogy, actually. It must be so frustrating for designers.
It is. It really speaks to how fashion is perceived,
They're not taken seriously.
Yeah, seen as frivolous when it's actually a multi-billion-dollar industry.
That employs millions of people.
Exactly. It's about creativity, innovation, craftsmanship, cultural expression.
And so much more.
It really is. And I think it's time that we started recognizing that impact, both economically and socially.
I completely agree, and I think Jamal's work with GFC is a great example of that.
Showing the true potential.
Exactly, and he's doing it on a global scale, which brings us to another big trend that's shaping the future of fashion.
Digital communication.
Yes, the whole digital streaming thing is fascinating.
It really is.
It's like you have a front row seat to all these amazing fashion events from anywhere in the world.
Right? At your fingertips.
But how are designers adapting to this new way of showcasing their work?
Yeah.
Is it a challenge to translate that energy, the feel of a live show, to a digital platform?
That's such a good question, and it's something that Simona asks Jamal about in the interview.
Of course she does.
He acknowledges those challenges, but he also sees the huge potential that these platforms have.
Like what?
Well, you can reach a global audience, instantly connect with consumers in these really innovative ways, and even create immersive virtual experiences that go beyond the traditional runway show.
Wow, that's amazing. It's like a whole new world of possibilities.
This really is.
But does that mean physical fashion shows are a thing of the past?
I don't think so. Jamal believes that physical shows will always have their place, but they might evolve to become more immersive, more interactive.
Oh, interesting. Like how?
He talked about incorporating augmented reality, personalized elements, maybe even giving the audience a chance to interact directly with the designers.
That's really cool. It's not about replacing one with the other, but finding a way to combine them.
Yeah, creating a richer and more engaging experience.
And it's that kind of thinking that makes Jamal such a visionary.
Always ahead of the curve.
Exactly, like when he was doing trunk shows and pop-up shops way before they became mainstream.
He's always pushing the boundaries.
Which leads us to another crucial aspect of the future of fashion sustainability.
It's not just a trend anymore.
The necessity.
Right, it's a core value that's driving innovation and influencing consumer choices.
So how does Jamal see GFC playing a role in this movement towards a more sustainable fashion industry?
Well, he talked about the importance of working with designers who are committed to sustainable practices, using eco-friendly materials, minimizing their environmental impact.
That's great, but it's such a complex issue.
It is. He acknowledges that it needs a systemic change. From the way we produce and consume clothes to how we dispose of them.
There's a whole ecosystem.
Right, and I think GFC is helping to foster that change by showcasing designers who are leading the way in sustainability.
And hopefully inspiring others to do the same.
And they're encouraging consumers to be more mindful too, buy less, buy better, think about the impact of their choices.
It's about moving away from fast fashion and embracing that slower, more thoughtful approach.
Exactly.
And recognizing that fashion can be a force for good.
That's really what Jamal's vision for GFC is all about, using fashion to connect people across cultures and continents, to drive innovation and creativity, and to make a positive impact on the world.
So after this deep dive into the global fashion collective, what's the one thing you want our listeners to remember?
I think the biggest takeaway is that fashion is so much more than just trends and labels. It's a powerful form of self-expression. It drives innovation. It reflects our values.
And it can be a force for good.
Exactly.
And remember, fashion is a journey, not a destination. So keep exploring, keep asking questions, and keep pushing those boundaries.
You never know, you might be the next designer on the runway at a global fashion collective show.
That's right. And if you're ever in Milan, be sure to check out their show on February 28th at Chiostri di San Barnaba.
You might just discover your new favorite designer.
Until next time, stay curious, stay stylish, and keep diving deep.